understand that life is a choice, and that if you want to improve your self-esteem and you want to improve your life, it starts with saying to yourself, I have been buying into this all of my life. As a little boy or a little girl, it wasn't my mother who did it to me. I believed it. I bought into it. They tried to convince me that I wasn't that important, and I accepted it. And now I'm an adult, and I am still buying into it. I'm still accepting it, and I'm still carrying over all of this leftover baggage from perhaps other people making this effort. So you have to say to yourself, they didn't do it to me. I allowed it to happen, and I am no longer willing to allow myself to be immobilized by the rejection that other people or other events or other institutions or whatever it may be may have attempted to impose on me.
It's not what happens that determines the major part of your future. It's not what happens. What happens, happens to us all. He said the key is what you do about it. It's not what happens, it's what you do about it.
What is guilt? Guilt is the immobilization that comes from living in the past. It is about, you can't be guilty about things that you're going to do. Your guilt is about things in the past. And let's distinguish right here that there's something called learning from the past, which is very valuable and very important, and there's nothing in the world wrong with it. You do something, you behave towards someone in a way that you don't like, you've done something that is inappropriate, you've made a mistake, you've dropped the ball in some way, and what you say to yourself, instead of, oh, I'm so terrible and I'm so awful and I'm just such a bad person, which is instantly putting a label on yourself and immobilizing you and keeping you from growing and learning from it, what you can say instead is, I am going to work even harder in this day at not behaving in those ways. And these are the things that I'm going to do. But most people don't do that. Instead, they accept guilt. And the guilt that they accept is, I am not worthy.
Taking responsibility instead of putting it off on someone else. That transition sometimes is a challenging mission. And this one was a little tough for me. He said, Mr. Rohn, you've got pennies in your pocket, you've got nothing in the bank, the creditors are calling, you're behind on your promises. And he says, here's how that occurs. You've attracted, up until now, you've attracted the things to you because of the person you've become.
You can choose the kind of personality you are going to have. It is not something you're stuck with. It's not something that you just have to have, even though you may have never elected anything to the contrary. You can go out. My wife went out and decided that she was going to get good at something athletic, and she had never done anything very much athletic before in her life, and she took up bowling, and she went out, and you should see her now. She's unbelievable. And a year ago, she couldn't even lift the ball. She didn't even know where to put her fingers, and she's putting her thumb in the finger hole and throwing it the wrong way and dropping. And now she goes out there, and she's unbelievable. She made the choice. She got rid of the self-definition, I'm not good at athletics. And I've seen people do this in many, many areas of their life. I've heard people say over and over again, I'm no good at drawing, I'm not artistic, or I'm not musical. And then they stay away from that for their entire life.
Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Once I got that, it turned my life around. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. He said, if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune.
What I'm saying to you is that if you hang on to that, if you're attached to the belief that you can't do something because you've always been told that, or because you're just like your father, or you inherited that from your mother, you hear families saying this over and over again, oh, he got that from his grandfather, and oh, he got this from his great-grandmother, and all of that. That's nonsense. You are what you choose to be, not what you inherit. And you've got to know in your soul that you have the capacity to be anything that you want, that you are a purposeful, divine creature, and that you can create anything you want for yourself in your life. What I don't do any longer with even the negative reviews is get myself immobilized or depressed by it. I accept that I am going to run into disapproval on a regular part of my life. And I've accepted that the people who love me the most are going to give me the most disapproval. Your parents, your brothers and sisters, your husband, your wife, your siblings, which is the same as your brothers and sisters, isn't it? Your coworker, people who care about you are going to sometimes disapprove, and sometimes they're not going to disapprove. My wife and I don't agree on about 50% of the things that we do in our lives. She has a certain way of running things. I have a certain way of running things. But I don't let her disapproval immobilize me, and she doesn't let my disapproval immobilize her. We've gotten to the point where we understand that we are different, that she's unique and that I'm unique, and that we're entitled to that. And instead of making that a place of contention, we've gotten to a point in our lives where conflict and confrontation are not things that we want for ourselves any longer. That we don't want to have that experience on a regular basis of always being upset and angry and hurt over all of the kinds of little things that tend to really ruin relationships. So rather than have that conflict and that confrontation and that pain and the anguish and all of that goes with that, what you do is you shift that and you say, you know, you don't agree with me and I understand that, and that's fine. And if I don't need to have her agree with me, if I don't need her approval, if I want it but I don't get it, that's fine. But if I need it and don't get it, then I'm going to get angry and I'm going to blow up and I'm going to have this. So it's like I instead of expecting approval for everything that I say and do everywhere in the world, including with my children and with my brothers and sisters and all of the people in my life, instead of that, I expect some disapproval. As a matter of fact, I expect it about half of the time.
In order to be successful, number one is to develop multiple skills. I was taught this back when I was 25 years old. When my first skill, of course, milking cows out on the farm, but it didn't pay very well.
You have the choice. When someone says something to you that you dislike, when someone behaves in a way towards you that you find offensive, you have the choice in how you're going to process that. You are a processor of life. You must not turn the controls of your life over to somebody else in the form of approval seeking and telling yourself that you have to have it. Now remind yourself, being approved of is wonderful. We all like it. It's terrific. Applause is great. But it is not something I need, and I expect the opposite quite often. And when I do expect it, then I'm not surprised by it. And I'm not looking for any landslide. And even if I want a landslide, I'm still only going to get 53 or 54% of the people to approve of me. And the other 47 or 46% are not going to. And that is just the way things are.
We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. Key to understanding economics. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. Marketplace is also described as reality. Reality, the marketplace. Now, it takes time. It takes time to bring value to the marketplace, but we don't get paid for time. It's very important for kids to understand, as well as adults. We don't get paid for time. Mistakenly, the man says, well, I'm making about $20 for an hour. Not true. Not true. If that was true, you could just stay home, have them send your money. No, it's not true. You don't get paid for the hour. You get paid for the value you put in the time. So we don't get paid for time, we get paid for value. Now, since that's true, here's one of the key questions of the afternoon. Is it possible to become twice as valuable and make twice as much money in the same time? Is it possible to become 3 times as valuable as you now are and make 3 times as much money in the same time? Is that possible? Of course. If you want to really emphasize something, that's a good phrase, Stuart. Of course.
And the fact is that the fear is all in your mind. It's only a thought. A new and healthy and fulfilling and exciting and exquisite life is only a thought away. You change around the expectation that this is going to be tough or that I can't do this, and instead shift it to I can do anything, I can be anything, I can experience anything, one meal at a time, one day at a time, and I can make anything happen for myself. And that's how you change behavior, by wandering into the unknown rather than staying with the familiar. And when the student is ready, when you are ready, you will find help and guidance available to you all over the place. And when you're not ready, that help and guidance that is always there will always seem to be missing from your life. It's just a question of readiness.